video is called finding the greatest common factor and least common multiple with the division ladder. So the division ladder is a handy tool that is quicker than using lists when you're trying to find the greatest common factor and the least common multiple of two numbers. But in order to understand that the division ladder actually works, we want to review the old skills first. And for our old school skill review, we're going to find the GCF and LCM with a list. We're going to find the GCF and LCM of 24 and 36. So, as we worked on this yesterday, to find the GCF, the greatest common factor of 24 and 36, the first thing that we want to do is list all the factors. And we can do that with factor pairs. So the factors of 24, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. So if I write that in an organized list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. I'm going to repeat the process with 36. 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. By the way, since we have a factor pair with the same numbers, we know that 36 is a square number. '24 is composite. 36 is also composite. We're going to write those factors in an ordered list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, 36. And since it's a square number, it has that repeated factor of 6, but we don't list 6 twice in our list. Now to find the greatest common factor, we look for the biggest factor that's in both lists. So 36 is not in both lists. 18 is not in both lists, but 12 is in both lists. So the GCF and LCM, the GCF of 24 and 36 is 12. The second skill that we're going to review is finding the least common multiple of 24 and 36. So now we're going to find the LCM of 24 and 36. So we're going to list the multiples of 24. And since they go on forever, you don't really want to list too many at a time, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. So 24 is the first multiple. 24 times 2 is 48. 24 times 3 is 72. 24 times 4 is 96. The list goes on forever. The multiples of 36 start with 36. 36 times 1 is 36. 36 times 2 is 72. Since we already found a common one, that's the least common multiple, even though they go on forever. The LCM of 24 and 36 is 72. So that method of lists is very, it's a nice method because it has a lot of things to look at. It lists all the factors and multiples in order, but it can be very time consuming. So the division ladder today is what you see on the right hand side of the page, which is what was on your note catchers. It's a tool that helps us get to these answers quicker. So in today's note catcher, there's all of this reading. But remember, whenever you have examples, the most effective way to use them is to maybe cover them up, like this example 1, and work it by yourself so you can understand the reading. So I'm going to zoom in on this page, and we're going to do that. So if we read the directions, it says, finding the greatest common factor and least common multiple using the division ladder. Step 1, to make a division ladder for 24 and 36. It should say, there's a little bit of a typo here, isn't there? To make a division ladder for 24 and 36, this should just say, we can divide out common factors from both numbers until 1 is the only common factor left. So watch me do this. I'm going to pick 2 because I know 2 is a factor of both 24 and 36. And if you're having trouble seeing the numbers there because they're a small type, this is 24 and this is 36. So what I do is I say 24 divided by 2 and I put that answer here, which is 12. And then I say 36 divided by 2 and I get 18. Now I look at this and I investigate and I try to see if 12 and 18 have any common factors. And I notice that 12 and 18 have 3 in common. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So I repeat the process. And I say, do 4 and 6 have anything in common? And 4 and 6 both have 2 in common. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Repeat the process until the only common factor is 1, and 2 and 3 only have 1 in common. 2 divided by 1 is 2. 3 divided by 1 is 3. Once I've finished that process, these numbers multiplied together, 2 times 3 times 2, 6 times 2 equals 12. That's what this says over here. It's showing you that method, that the GCF, the greatest common factor of 24 and 36, is 12. And if I go to that list we made, we also found that to be true. The next thing the ladder does for us is if you take the very bottom of the ladder times the very top of the ladder and multiply these two numbers, you get the least common multiple. That's what this example is showing you. 2 times 36 is 72. So we learn that the least common multiple is 72 by multiplying 2 times 36. Or we could take the top of the other side times the opposite bottom level, and we'll still get the least common multiple of 72. And that's what we found over here. So we practiced that skill, and when you read the first practice your skill over here, I'm going to erase this now because it's all worked out nicely. When you read the practice your skill, repeat the process. The ladder can be started with any common factor. This time try starting it with 6, which is what we did in class. 24 divided by 6 is 4. 36 divided by 6 is 6. 4 and 6 both have 2 in common. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 and 3 only have 1 in common. 2 divided by 1 is 2. 3 divided by 1 is 3. I'm at the bottom of the ladder because 1 is the only common factor. 2 times 36 is 72, which is the LCM. Six times 2 is 12. That's the GCF, which is what we found out over here. The LCM is 72, and if you scroll up a little bit, the GCF is 12. So we had some practice your skill problems. The first one was number 2. 9 goes into 45 and 72. 45 divided by 9 is 5. 72 divided by 9 is 8. 5 and 8 only have 1 in common. So this ladder is nice and short. The GCF is 9 times 1. It's always these numbers on the side multiplied. And the LCM is 5 times 72. That's a good opportunity to use the area model. 5 times 72, 350, plus 10 is 360. These were the practice problems. Just repeat the process, find a number that's common to both. 9 goes into 27 3 times and into 81 9 times. 3 goes into both 3 and 9. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. The only thing common to 1 and 3 is 1. We're at the bottom of the ladder. The GCF is 9 times 3, which is 27. Happens to be one of the numbers itself. That's possible. The LCM comes from multiplying the bottom of one side times the top of the other. So if you didn't get a chance to do number 4 and 5 in class, you should do it yourself. I'll pause. So number 4, if you've done the work correctly, you should have the GCF of 24 and 108 is 216. And the LCM, the GCF of 24 and 108 is 12, and the LCM is 216. And then another practice your skill would be to use lists to do this. So I'll pause this and write the list out. You can try to do the same. So I wrote the list of the multiples, and the multiples for 24, we had to go quite a long way. But luckily for 108, we didn't. So the LCM is 216. Now I'll do the factors. And I'm going to extend the page there. So the factors, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6 are the factors of 24. I'll write those in an organized list. And then the factors of 108, it's a lot more work. So for the factors of 108, we've talked about different skills. One of the little skills I showed in class was if you could figure out how many times 3 goes into 54, then you could just double it to see how many times it goes into 108. So 3 goes into 54 18 times, so it goes into 108 36 times. Otherwise, you can always use long division, and 3 goes into 10 9 times, and into 18 6 times. So this list takes a little more time, so I'll pause and we'll compare now. So I have my factor list here in purple, and when we look for the greatest common factor, there's lots of common factors, but 1 is in both, 2 is in both, 3 is in both lists, 4 is in both lists, 6 is in both lists, and 12 is in both lists. 12 is the greatest common factor. So that was so much work. That's why the ladder tool is a much more efficient way to solve the problem.